we are gearing up for the runoffs, and we are following a couple of the races. One of them is the race for Clayton County Sheriff. Joining us today is one of the candidates for Clayton County Sheriff, Jeff Turner. Jeff, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. I should say Chairman Turner, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, that is my title currently.
I want to talk to you about the results from the election that led to this runoff. Your opponent, the incumbent, Sheriff Levon Allen, he secured just under 50% of that vote. You got about 25% of the vote. Following that election, after those results came out, our Trusa Bowles came down and spoke with you. And you told her you were very surprised about the percentage, but at the end of the day, as long as I'm in the race, I might be in there by the skin of my teeth, but I'm there at the end of the day. Absolutely. We have to regroup. Why were you surprised by these results?
Yeah, 49.5%, and there was 3 other people in that race. I'm thankful to get whatever percentage I had because it kept me in the race, but at the same time, for somebody who is the current sheriff, who does not possess the necessary skill set as well as the notoriety as some of the others of us that's in the race, to not get over 30-40%, that just really surprised me.
I want to just expand on that a little bit. When you say surprised, were you surprised that you were not confident in your own campaign or the voters turning out for you? Or were you just surprised that he didn't get over that threshold?
No, I think the voters did come out. I think he did an excellent job in getting his supporters to the polls. So that's what makes me have to regroup. Okay. We have to do something different tactics. We have to touch people. And let me just say this, low voter turnout. When there's a low voter turnout, whoever gets their supporters to the polls are going to be the ones who are most successful. Apparently, I didn't get enough of my voters to the poll, but this time it's going to be different. I am trying and doing other tactics that's going to hopefully bring them back out to the polls to vote for me, because this race is very pivotal to Clayton County.
Let's talk about those voters. Your message to them, according to your website, some of your campaign promises, ensuring safety and security of residents and pre-trial detainees, build strong relationships between law enforcement and the community, to work tirelessly to reduce crime in the neighborhoods. Residents hear this from politicians, elected officials all the time, these campaign promises. How can you plan to ensure that you can fulfill these promises if you are elected to this role?
Excellent question. If you look at my proven record, I was in law enforcement for 23 years. Last 3 of those years, I was chief of police. During that time, I brought community-oriented policing to the county. I had my officers go out into each community, each neighborhood, and bridge that gap where we can count on our community supporting the law enforcement officers as well as the officers supporting their community, not only in the capacity of answering calls for service, but to make sure that they see law enforcement officers as part of the community. So it's more about not answering those calls for service as it was connecting with the community to get that community support. Then you look at my 12 years as being the chairman of the county. I have established relationships, I have built budgets, I have operated large budgets. I have the experience, knowledge, and proven leadership to make all of those promises that I say I can do a reality. And that is my game plan, that is my agenda, and that's what I'm gonna make happen once I become the sheriff of Clayton County.
Given your role as a former law enforcement officer, longtime law enforcement officer, what are some of those things that you see could change within the law enforcement of Clayton County to reconnect with the community? Because at this point, there is a distrust between police officers and community members.
Yes, and I agree wholeheartedly. One thing that I see that I believe that the community of Clayton County, to involve the county police, the sheriff's office, and the city municipality police departments, is to bring them all together. Some of them are working in silos right now. That should never be. For our county to be stronger and safer, we need all of our public safety officials working together, singing from the same sheet of music, but more than that to know your role, know what you are responsible for. Before you start worrying about somebody else's house, you need to take care of your own house. When you look at the sheriff's department, what's going on with the jail, what's going on with it being totally out of control. People have went into the county jail on a misdemeanor citation and have came out in a body bag. That's unacceptable. People are getting stabbed. People are losing their life. The gangs are actually running the county jail. That is totally unacceptable to me. And again, that's why I'm saying take care of your house before you worry about taking care of somebody else's house or taking on their responsibilities and duties. There's three main duties and responsibilities statutorily that a sheriff should first address. And that's maintain an orderly jail, courthouse security, and serving civil and criminal warrants and documents. So get that down. Let's lay that as a foundation. And then the other part of that is being an asset and support for those other agencies that operate in and around Clayton County. Nothing says that a sheriff can't go out and patrol and give out tickets and whatnot. And I don't have a problem with that. But again, when you are lacking in other areas, you have to prioritize what needs to be done from your agency, what is expected. And once everybody understands their role, everybody starts to work together, the citizens of Clayton County will see a safer community.
Now, you've unpacked a lot that needs to be done, but if you are elected to this office, what about your day one? What are you doing day one when you get in there?
Day one, I have to address the issues in the county jail. There needs to be a reclassification of every inmate in there because, from my understanding, they have violent offenders mixed in with misdemeanor offenders. That's not acceptable. I have to make sure that we look at the detainees who have mental issues. Everybody who's in jail doesn't deserve or need to be in jail because they're some type of mental issue that they may be having. So we need to go in and look at every detainee in there. We need to reclassify them. We need to make sure those who have mental issues are getting the proper help. We need to make sure that those who are violent, those who are gang members, are placed in separate areas. Those who are there under misdemeanors, they need to be addressed accordingly as well. If they don't have a criminal history, then there's no problem with asking for them to be released on their own recognizance or their bond to be set low. But there are so many things you can use to mitigate the population within the jail itself. Then you got to make sure, or I will make sure, that the staff is properly trained. Those who have the skill set to do certain jobs need to be in those positions. Those who do not need to be in those positions. You know, it comes down to action and inability and competency. A lot of what we see going on in the jail today is because the officers themselves, whether they're correctional officers or deputies, in my opinion, have not been properly trained. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good men and women who are working there and they're doing their job excellently every day. But there is a fallacy somewhere. There is an issue when you have people dying in the jail as often as they are, when you have stabbings in the jail as often as we see. And I'm not saying anything that's new to anybody because it's in the news. The families come to see me and they're saying, we need help. And I have to tell them, as chairman, I don't have that authority over the sheriff. The only way I can do anything about what's going on in the sheriff's department is to be the sheriff.
I'm glad that you brought that up because my next question is about the Clayton County Jail. You said that's going to be your day one. Your opponent, Sheriff Allen, he says that you were in a position where you could have fixed this. Clearly, you don't agree with that. But he says that if you wanted to do this over the last 16 years, you could have done this. What can you do differently as sheriff that you could not do as chairman to resolve these issues at the Clayton County Jail?
First of all, I need clarification as to what he is alluding to as I could have fixed it. I could have fixed what? I don't understand where he's going with that. The operations of the jail is the sheriff's responsibility. I have no authority over how he runs the county jail, how he spends his budget. State law says that once a budget is given to a sheriff, he or she has a right to spend it any way he or she sees fit. If he's talking about the conditions of the jail, then yes, the Board of Commissioners is responsible for the brick and mortar of that jail. And let me say this, and this is very important.
And I don't want to cut you off. I do want to clarify that this quote, when there is something broken and not working on is an enhancement. It is on the Board of Commissioners to do that. So I do want to clarify that he was speaking on that part. But
yes, and I would agree. Board of Commissioners is responsible for the brick and mortar of the jail. So what I want to be very clear about is, just like in your house, on your job, or anywhere else, you can't fix something if you don't know about it. Issues at the jail didn't come to light until this last year. Now, for whatever reason, the jail was not, the people who managed the jail was not bringing that to our attention, saying that we have a problem here. All of a sudden it became an emergency. One day they woke up and said, hey, there's 101 things wrong with the jail, and it needs to be fixed. When they said that, when they brought that to the Board of Commissioners' attention, we gave them anywhere from $15 to $20 million for this fix.
So this was never brought up to the Board of Commissioners?
Not to this level. There's little small things that needed to be done that was brought to our attention, but these larger problems, now all of a sudden, every jail cell in the county jail is broken. The sinks don't work. The toilets don't work. The plastic within the windows have been cut out by inmates. You know, we know when they have time, they can be very creative. They were sneaking contraband into the jail. Again, we don't know anything about what's going on unless somebody on that staff tells us this is a problem, and all of a sudden, like I said, overnight, it became a problem. We are inundated with emails now that says, y'all didn't take care of it. Therefore, this is the problems now. You got to do something about it. Well, we're not going to shrug our responsibility. He brought it to our attention now, and we have been paying millions of dollars to get it corrected. But had it been taken care of over the time, last 3-4 years, then it would have been taken care of. But if you don't report it, if you don't tell us this is the problem, how in the world can we do anything about it?
So are you saying that the current sheriff has mismanaged the funds that were given to the jail to correct these issues?
No, I'm not saying that. But we need to come back to that point. What we have done was given the money to our building and maintenance department, who works with the contractor who repairs things at the jail. So once he said, hey, we need new doors, new locks, we put that money in the budget of building and maintenance. They work with them. They purchase the locks, and then they exchange them out. That's how that works.
But this was not happening, is what you're
that
saying?
That did happen. Not over time. He's only been the sheriff for the last year or so.
I'm sorry. I'm talking about the recent request. I believe it was $14 million that was sent over. My numbers might be a little incorrect.
No, I said 15 to 20 is what we have paid thus far in the last couple of years.
And you said that 15 to 20 million that was paid. The process that you just described, that was not happening.
No, the process is happening.
Okay. Just to
and as it happens,
okay.
we're addressing the issues.
Got it.
If he's bringing to us legitimate concerns and issues,
okay.
It is being addressed.
On the commissioner's side?
On the commissioner, that we have authority
okay.
over. So the brick and mortar, when he says that this is a problem, then we're addressing it.
Okay.
Now, if he's bringing up other issues or requests, I would say, such as a mobile housing unit where he wants to help alleviate overcrowding, he wants to spend another $5 or $6 million to buy that. But it's going to cost more than that because you got to clear the land and you got to make sure you have foundation stuff like that to put that on. And we didn't necessarily say no. We said let's look at grant opportunities that can help fund it. Because when you're paying $15 to $20 million on the brick and mortar, all that's taxpayers' money, just like his budget. His budget is 2 months ago, we gave him $14 million because he was short. He didn't have enough money to pay his staff.
And that's where my $14 million number came from.
That's where the $14 million came from. So we moved about 2 months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, we moved $14 million into his budget on top of the $45.5 million he was originally given. So he ran out of money, didn't have no money to pay contractors or employees, which is totally unacceptable. And then Tuesday, our last meeting, we had to move another $1.6 million into his budget because he went through the $14 million. So altogether in the last 2 months, we have provided, in addition to his budget, $16.4 million over budget. Unacceptable. Citizens of Clayton County deserve better. He does not know how to manage a budget. And let me say this, the sheriff is a nice guy. He's just not the right guy for right now. He doesn't have the experience. He doesn't have the proven leadership. He doesn't have the training behind him. He's came up the ladder very quickly. He was carried by one of the previous sheriffs, and he was allowed to move through the ranks real quick. And that was not to his benefit, I'll say that, because he did not receive that training and experience of somebody who would have been able to sit in that position 3 or 4 years, move up to lieutenant 3 or 4 years, and so forth. So his rise to the sheriff's position happened very, very quickly. And he did not have, or does he not have, or possess the skill set necessary to be the sheriff.
So let me ask you this. On June 18th, the voters will have to mark a name. You are setting yourself up saying that you are better qualified for this job, you've had more experience. Mm-hmm. What would you do differently than the sheriff is doing now? Why should people mark your name instead of Sheriff Allen's name?
I do everything differently. So I'll start off by saying, as I said earlier, you have to gain control of the county jail. It's obvious they don't have control of that jail right now. Secondly, we have to make sure that the people who are working for us are people who are respecting those very ones that they are in charge of the custody of. That comes with customer service. That comes with picking up the phone. That comes with making sure that when an inmate says, I'm on certain medication, I need to have it, that their needs are addressed. You got to make sure that the employees are catering to every detainee in the same way, unless they act in a way that won't allow you to treat them with respect and dignity. That's first and foremost. Then you got to look at the skill sets of every employee. You got to have somebody in the jail that can do a classification for those with mental health issues. And you got to make sure that you connect with your community. You got to be transparent. All this money that we're throwing at the sheriff's office, over budget to fix the county jail, the contracts, all that needs to be looked at. There needs to be a forensic audit done of the sheriff's department on day one. We know it's costly, but at the same time, this is something that is for not only the incoming sheriff, which would be me, and the current sheriff. Even today, if he did a forensic audit, I would be thankful for that, because they're hemorrhaging money, and that money is just not a bottomless pit. It's taxpayers' money. And they need an accounting of what's going on at the sheriff's office. $16.4 million over budget. It's not being spent in the right way. You know, when you have every car, every vehicle in his fleet, of course, has his name on it, and nothing says that he can't do that. But for me, that money can be used for different purposes, for enhancements in the jail. And then when you look at, over a year ago, paid about $2 million for 100 electric vehicles. Now, those electric vehicles, when he bought them, he did not confer or talk to us, which he didn't have to. But had he talked to the county government, we would have told him there's no infrastructure in place for us to have electric vehicles. So there's about 40 or 50 of those electric vehicles sitting behind the county jail right now, growing grass under the tires. That's unacceptable. Again, you got to be fiduciary, you got to be responsible, financially responsible, for taxpayers' money. We don't see that happening. But you got to have somebody with skill set that understands budgets, that knows how to set a budget, knows how to manage a budget. And we are definitely just not getting that right now. So when you say, why Jeff Turner? Why check that name? It's because I understand budgets, because I'm going to be responsible for taxpayers' money. It's because I'm going to be transparent. It's because I'm going to be where I've always been, whether it was with the police department, as the chairman of the county, and as a sheriff, ingrained and engaged in my community. I live, work, play, and pray in Clayton County. I love my community, and I'm here. And let me say this. People always ask me, why are you going from chairman to a sheriff? Some people think that's a step down, and I argue with them. That's not a step down. Because for me, I don't need a title to define who I am. It's about the service. How can Jeff Turner best serve the community that he loves? And as I sat and contemplated what my next moves would be, I'm not term restricted as a chairman, so I could have ran to the wheels or until people just didn't want me anymore. And as I continue to hear the horror stories coming out of the sheriff's department, I felt compelled, and I prayed and spoke to my wife and my family, and I felt that the best move for me and the community would be to run for sheriff of Clayton County, because I can't just talk about it and not be about it. If I see all these atrocities happening and I do nothing about it, then shame on me, especially when it's impacting the county that I love. So instead of talking about it, I got up and I put my name on that ballot, and prayerfully, June 18th, they will put me in that office.
Well, we will certainly see, and we will be following those results right here on the Georgia Vote. Chairman Turner, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
We appreciate it.
All right.